Welcome to Basement Side. I'm Deeg. Today, I want to talk about why Asmongold needs a break. So this is a
What?
VOD
What? It's me.
taken from Asmongold's second casual channel called Zach Rar. Who's Asmongold? Hope I don't have to explain it to many people. Asmongold's the world's most popular World of Warcraft streamer. He's a cultural phenomenon. He is simultaneously someone who is every single stereotype about a non-successful gamer who is stuck in video games and cannot get past that, out of that microcosm, in order to actually have to do something useful in the real world. He's simultaneously that and simultaneously insanely successful in the real world. Because by being this exclamation point, this outlier, and presenting it to the world in an honest way, which he has done over the last 10, 15 years. I'm not sure how long he's been on the air. A long time. He's brought people in. He's brought in people who appreciate what his struggles are and identify with him and understand his perspective. Anyway, apparently he had some kind of a blow up on stream and he rage quit. And so this is him on his second stream, and he's just talking a little bit with the chat about why he needs a break.
Hey, chill. What? Yeah, it's you again.
Okay.
You spooked me. I see that. So, the PvE door and everything. No, the thing is, like, I enjoy, like, the thing is, yesterday, right, whenever I rage logged, which I clearly did, it's not like that wasn't what I did. I clearly rage logged. I was mad at myself. I never get mad at other players, really. Like, I don't know really why. It's just like, it's not their fault for playing the game and winning. It's my fault for not beating them. And I was just mad at myself for not playing it the way that I should have. So that's kind of, that's like my thinking. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that I'm the kind of person that, like, needs a lot of alone time and time by myself.
So he got upset with himself for losing. And now he's reflecting on how he's a bit of an introvert, which I respect. I respect that.
And so whenever I'm streaming and I'm around a lot of other people a lot, I kind of just get into, like, a weird mood, and it manifests itself in a lot of different ways.
I really should say, just in case this gets taken in the wrong sense, that I really admire Asmongold. He's really put himself out there in an enormous way. Doesn't get enough credit for that. And I think it's pretty easy for people to look at him and to hate him because he has this caricature of being an unapologetic, hyper realized version of what I'm sure is. I mean, we all play characters of ourselves, and especially when we're on stream. What you're seeing is the character of myself, Deeg. My name is Greg in the real world. This is a green screen. Like, we present ourselves. And I'm creating the reality that you're seeing. But anyway. I really empathize with the guy. And that's why I wanted to listen to this.
It's not really just like a one thing it does or one thing it doesn't do. It's just like a general feeling that I get. Really irritable whenever around other people too much. Yeah, exactly. Overanalyzing both yourself and others. I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, anyway, that's I think one of the main reasons. Need time to mentally recharge. Yeah, and like I'm just kind of a... At the end of the day, I'm really just a degenerate. And
he's explaining the reason that he needs to recharge away from people because he's a degenerate. It seems that Asmongold has been made to believe that needing alone time is not acceptable. This is something that I relate to a little bit. I am an introvert, have been my whole life, but at the same time, I need connection. That's why I bother to do this. That's why I have my buddies online that I prefer to game with, and I'll play a shitty game I don't like because it's with my friends, rather than play a game that actually interests me sometimes. I really appreciate the value of connection. Most important one I have in my life is my wife, who, I mean, the amount of value and growth I've been able to have as a person because of the long-term connection to her is staggering. Staggering. Just because I'm an introvert and I need to be alone to recharge doesn't mean I don't need people. And it's not a bad thing. But Asmongold either believes it's a bad thing or he's putting it that way to shut down discussion. I don't know. But again, my heart's going out to him. Asmongold, needing alone time ain't wrong. It doesn't make you degenerate. I will say, though, that I sympathize with that idea because growing up, I was made to feel also that wanting alone time was degenerate. I was made to feel that being interested in video games was degenerate. Now I'm a little older than Asmon. I think about 10 years. So we didn't grow up in quite the same era. I managed to get through all of high school and college before iPhones existed and before social media came out. Whereas for him, his 20s have been all about Twitch stardom. But generally speaking, Western society values people who are slow-burning achievers and extroverts. Extroversion is kind of expected in many, many ways. And it's a big part of why it's probably a big part of why we idolize celebrities. It's a big part of the reason why people who want alone time are made to feel bad about wanting it. Like degenerates. That sucks. And I happen to have the luxury of a few more years on Asmon, so I feel a little less bad about rejecting that idea than I'm guessing he does. But let's listen some more.
And I like being a degenerate. I'm not sorry about it or anything, but it's what I am. And
so he's trying to accept that he is the way he is. Probably he's tried not to be that way.
I need to be alone and just play video games all day and not talk to people, and I'm kind of a weird guy, you know? And I can try to pretend to be a normal person for a pretty long time, but eventually it's exhausting.
Yeah. Pretty Sean, brother. Extrovert is not the same thing as normal. But not sitting in your room and playing video games all day, every day, is normal. So I went through this too. Actually, there was a period in my life where I left college without finishing it. I was directionless. I had fallen back on the charity of my family, and I had no idea where I was going with my life. And one time when my parents expressed agitation, frustration with my lack of direction, I just told them, I might just be someone who works at a gas station for the rest of my life and plays video games. And you might need to learn to be okay with that. Which to them, who had been telling me a message that I'm smart and I'm going to outsmart them all, and my smarts are going to carry me through life and solve all my problems for me. It was a bit of a dig at them, admittedly, and I didn't know what to do. I was in my 20s. I guess the luxury of looking back now, I feel as though really my 20s were about testing reality, or about learning about the world. Because I had to get out there for a good 10 years, really, before I started putting it together and trying to and started to realize enough about the world to understand how I might want to be. And there's this idea that in Western society especially, that there's a unique flower within us that we need to tap into. And I'm sure for some people that's true, but I think for most, really coming to terms with our adult life is about understanding ourselves by understanding the world. Because we don't exist in a vacuum. And Asmongold's world is particularly fucking weird. Because he sits alone all day with 50,000 people watching him. What the hell is that like? That's the other component to this too, is that the emerging technology and its effects on how we interact with each other. He's kind of a guinea pig in that way. He's made himself that. And he's benefited from it. A lot of people who have done the same thing have not benefited the way he has. But I don't think he's a degenerate because of that. But I do think deciding that you need to play video games all day may make you a degenerate. Remember, we looked at the idea that video games are microcosms of reality. And if that's true, and if you wrap yourself up in video games all day, what you're doing is essentially denying reality in favor of a microcosm of it that you have more control over. In a way, it's a way to delay or deny the need to face the real world, I think. And that's what my experience of it was like, because I went through periods of my life where I also played video games in my room all day, every single day. And I thought that when I failed at life, that the explanation was that I wasn't supposed to do the life everyone else did. I was supposed to sit in my room and play video games. I thought the same thing that he's saying right fucking now, which is why this testimonial of sorts really fucking shined out at me. But let's look at the microcosm of reality that Asmon is putting forth as his particular reality. It's worth also saying that people insert themselves into microcosms of reality, not necessarily only in gaming, but it's something a lot of people do. If you've ever had a close friend or family member who had a cloistered view of reality, or an unsophisticated view of a complicated problem, you can see that same thing. It's people who have accepted a simplified, reduced version of what could be. because it offers them some kind of comfort or a sense of meaning in one way or another. Okay, we're getting really metaphysical now. Let's listen.
And I can only really be myself, you know, and that's what it comes down to. Mizkif is looking and talking about your tweet right now. I mean, yeah, I talked to Mizkif and them a little bit last night, and I think it's just a matter of me kind of taking a step back and just kind of doing my own thing. I want to make more YouTube videos and just do different things. I feel like overall I've lost a lot of opportunities and not done things that I should have done this year, and I think to some degree I feel...
Oh man, I hated that feeling in my 20s. The feeling like I'd missed an opportunity. Oh, fuck, what a shitty feeling that is. I don't fight that feeling anymore. I think in many ways because I've simplified my life to only contain the things that matter to me for the most part. And when I do have an opportunity emerge, I can usually pursue it. But man, when you're sorting things out, it is fucking hard. Anyway, I'm just really empathizing with that.
Feel stupid for not doing that. And I don't really know why, but I do. Can't play single player games anymore. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I'll play one, but for the most part, I'm kind of the same. I like just playing multiplayer games and playing with other people.
I'm like that
really
too.
Fun to me personally.
Why is that?
Trying to be on all the time. Well, the thing is,
it's something I don't understand. I'm not yet understanding either. I'm working on it though, which is why do certain people only play multiplayer games? I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm not really sure I know why. I know that to me, playing single player games feels kind of silly. If we go back to the idea of games being microcosms of reality that we looked at earlier, and that what they demand is a development of skill and an application of ethical, moral behavior between yourself and other people, then I guess it follows that the ability to interact with people and do so more and more successfully over time is not something you can really learn very well in a single player game, at least compared to a multiplayer game. Although, like I said, multiplayer games are having social components designed out of them over time anyway. So maybe in some ways, and maybe this is the interesting argument to make, maybe in some ways, games are becoming worse, less. Let me think of a good way to put this. Are becoming less accurate microcosms of reality over time. I don't know. I gotta think about that idea. It might be bullshit.
Is like there's a it's a duality of my personality where I like doing that, but then there's also the exhausting part of it as well, and I don't think that it's really it's really necessarily like I'm 100% one or the other. And I think the more that I trend towards doing one, the more like kind of weird I feel, and the more weird I act.
Right.
Like,
you need
for
a balance.
example, I think that I would like get...
You need a balance of connection and downtime, me time, if you're an introvert. Nothing wrong with that.
Mad or get frustrated about things more easily. And I'm not the kind of person to get like annoyed or sad or whatever based off of what people say, really. I mean, it's not really my personality, and anybody who knows me and has known me for a long time...
This is the hallmark of introverts. It's having a sense of the world that's internally driven rather than externally driven.
I mean, not really anybody in chat, hardly. Because, like, you guys know me, but you don't... Like, you haven't known me for, like, 10 years or whatever, right? It's, like, a little bit different. But, like, any of my real-life friends...
Another hallmark of introverts, it takes a long time to get to know them.
Or people that know me, like Sfand, Rich. You know, I think those are two of the main ones that have known me for quite a while. You know, I'm the kind of person I need a lot of space. I need a lot of time to myself, and so
Me too, brother.
once I start spending too much time with other people and being around other people too much, it kind of reflects badly on me and makes me into a person that I'm not really supposed to be. It's not.
So it seems like Asmon is retreating into video games all day because he feels overexposed to people. Respect that. I mean, another way to look at it could be that the ability to monitor yourself and your behavior and your feelings when you're in either introverted or social situations to understand what you need is a skill you develop over time. And if you keep engaging in social situations, you will eventually figure out when you're noised out, when you're done, or you'll be able to look ahead to situations and be like, "Oh, this will be too much for me," or you'll get tough enough to figure out how to get through certain things that are valuable to you and interesting to you. If you can pay the cost and energy and attention. And the idea, the kind of knee-jerk reaction of I've been embarrassed, I've been overexposed, I've been vulnerable in a social situation and been burned by it, and to wrap yourself in gaming all day is something I so well understand and sympathize with. I so sympathize with that.
It's not really who I am. Maybe OTK World first event was a bit much for you. Yeah, it was. It was really overwhelming for me, and it's not something that I would really want to do again. I don't like being around people that much. I'm not.
Asmon's talking about a live event that he did, which was, I assume, very intensive for him.
Not really. I don't want to make this like a thing where I stream on here regularly. Really, it's not gonna happen. But I want to make sure that I can at least, you know, keep in touch with people and do some of the things that I like to do.
Get what you need, but
Leaving
maintain your
OTK?
connections.
No, I'm not leaving OTK. Like, I like OTK a lot. It's just like doing a week-long event. It's not something that's really in my. That's not.
So he, this is always, it's one of the things about the internet that I'm becoming more and more aware of over time. He did an event for OTK, which is his gaming org, One True King, and the event stressed him out. It was too much. He said he's probably not going to do it again. Someone asked him if he's going to leave OTK. The internet has this way of amplifying the simplest ideas, which oftentimes have the least useful reflection of reality. This is a big part of why I turn my stream on at least once a week. Because I really care. I really care about trying to signal boost better understandings and more useful understandings of gaming and reality than are usually offered by the crazy aggregators that are social media websites. And that's what I love about YouTube. Actually, YouTube has this way of being a platform that allows for nuance to exist in a way that so many other social platforms just don't allow. That said, it does still signal boost a lot of dumb shit. I mean, we all need cat videos in our lives. I respect that. Anyway, just having a reaction to someone's reaction to his reaction. That's what we do.
It's not in my DNA, you know? It's just not. It's not me.
What game is he playing?
Maybe back
Is this
in
Rust?
a while. I don't know. Probably soon. Could it be you have to play a Persona and that's fucking with you a little in the long run? No. I think that there's a lot of people who, like, it's kind of annoying for me to read, like, people thinking that like I'm doing something for like another reason. I don't really know why there's like a strong fixation around, and I got this on like Twitter too, and just in general, I got a lot of people that were thinking it was again just because of like some kind of like drama or something dumb like that, and it's kind of frustrating to have to read that.
Simple ideas being
Every
boosted.
time McConnell shows up, the stream goes to shit. No, it's not really true. McConnell and I have streamed together for 5 years, man. Like, it's nobody's fault. It's like, it is what it is.
I don't watch a lot of Asmongold, but I know that "it is what it is" one of his shutdown phrases. He uses that phrase to shut down discussion, which is something that we do when we feel uncomfortable with where something is going. Someone just suggested that McConnell, just someone he streams with, is the source of drama, and he just shut it down. So he feels sensitive about that for some reason. I wonder why.
So yeah, take a break whenever you want. Yeah, exactly. Should accumulates over time. Yeah, I kind of need to just be by myself and do, you know, do me things. That's generally like always how I have to approach things. Always go assume shit, talk about what they have no idea about. Well, I think that there's like always a conversation about like streamers and like their chat, and I think people feel like it's like, oh, was it our fault or something like that? Not really. I mean, like, obviously, okay, I'm just gonna stop right here. Obviously, you know, if people are being hostile or abusive or talking shit or whatever, it's not really, it makes me enjoy the stream less. Of course it does, right? And of course I don't like that. I've never really been a person to, maybe not never, but like at least nowadays, I'm not really trying to like hide the fact that like, yeah, of course if chat's like really mad or like pissed off and like super like toxic or whatever, of course I'm gonna enjoy the stream less. I mean, 100%. I think anybody would feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of goes without saying.
A shared humanity, my friend.
So, just an introvert, man. Nothing wrong with that. I guess that's kind of what it is. I don't know. I think it does that to every streamer. Well, I think that's kind of the case with a lot of people, right? I mean, nobody really wants to. I still don't even want to do it. I'm just. This is. Why am I moving? I'm just gonna take my hand off the keyboard. For every personality is one that should be reinforced. Innate characteristic from you is accepted. I don't know. This is not like a psychology. Like, I don't want to talk about like my own psychology or whatever. Like, this isn't like a therapy session. I just want to explain kind of like where I'm coming from. That's all. We don't need to get complicated or whatever. Ask mods to permaban people. Like,
I'm not sure how much more relevant content there is in this video. I think there probably is some more, so we'll keep listening. But yeah, chat is a weird thing. Interacting with that many people in that way, instantaneously, is something that humans have never had to do before. I think the closest thing you get to it is like riots or mobs in the real world. Maybe sporting events, maybe. It's very strange. It does affect us, though. It affects the people who have the most viewers. That's what I love about Asmon. It's whatever he is, he's just out there.
yeah, I mean, sometimes like if somebody, the way I look at it is that I think this is probably the analogy that I've always used for banning toxic people is if somebody throws a rock at you and it doesn't hit you, you're still going to be mad at them because they threw a rock at you, even if it didn't hit you. And I think that's kind of the same perspective that I have with people that are toxic, is that even if somebody is saying something to me or about me that doesn't necessarily bother me, I'll still ban them because I don't want to have people saying those kinds of things about me.
Yeah, we read intent, right? And we try to judge on intent. Interestingly, on the other side of the spectrum, I can't remember where I heard this, but it was talking about the idea of reciprocity and the idea of repaying social contracts and how early we humans have that behavior codified in us, and we'll bring it out. And it there has been evidence shown that very young, like even toddlers, understand the basic idea of reciprocity, and they, in their minds, will make the same judgment of a person who gives them something they want versus someone who attempts to give them something that they want but drops it. We read intent.
So like even like the attempt of doing so indicates that I don't want them as a viewer, even if it wasn't necessarily successful. Why do you start streaming if you don't like being around a lot of people? Just a question, no hate. Because I do. I just don't like being around a lot of people all the time, constantly, without a break. Like, it's two completely different things. Like, for example, I'm completely okay doing it sometimes, and then after a while I need to take a break and stop. It's not really any more or less complicated than that.
That's why I don't do this every night.
Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Like it's a duality of at least like my personality. It's caused me a lot of problems in my life with like kind of making decisions and making choices that fit one element of my personality, but then end up alienating another element.
That's rough.
I think a lot of us are worried about our favorite streamers in Trekful. Like the thing is that I'm not really.
It's hard to integrate the different parts of ourselves. It's a lifelong journey. It's not easy.
Ooh. Give me a second. I gotta make sure I don't die here. Okay. There we go. Get missile. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know, like obviously I'll get really mad and think like, oh, I should just kill myself or something like that. Like, of course I'll think that sometimes, right? I'll just get really mad and inside my own head about that kind of stuff, but it's not necessarily something that I would really do, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I think that all the time, right? If I get mad or upset about something. Like, generally, whenever I get mad, I get really mad. Like, it's extremely unhealthy. Like,
sounds like Asmon doesn't know how to deal with anger, and is inclined to ignore it until it gets to be unignorable. I relate to that heavily, actually. The idea of getting so angry you think you'd like to kill yourself. I don't know about that. I can't relate to that. But I guess I could imagine feeling like I can't. I just don't know. Nothing to add there.
Like how upset or like angry I'll get about some things. And
Sounds like he's not too serious
you
though.
know, I try to give off the vibe that that's not really kind of like how I am, but it is, right? But I think also to some degree, the more that I just kind of am doing my own thing, the less that's the case.
So doing his own thing calms him down, helps him get in control of his anger. I mean, probably he does. I mean, I'm got to assume that Asmon, like so many of us, have used video games as a numbing agent, as a way to escape. You know, one of the things that really hit me hard in recent years is reflecting back on all the thousands of hours I've spent playing video games to numb myself from things I was feeling and to escape parts of reality that I didn't like. And realizing that I cheated myself out of actually facing those things and dealing with them, and how much further I could be in my path of figuring things out if I had found a way to face those things rather than to subdue them and submerge them. It's healthy to have a break. It needs to be said. There's this great story that I love written by James Herriot, a sort of semi-fictional character who is an animal vet living in the English countryside, middle of the 20th century, before a lot of modern technology and medicine. And he was treating an animal, and he administered a treatment that should have been successful in dealing with it. But the animal was in such distress and such pain that it would not recover. It was in such distress that even though it was cured medically, it still got worse and worse. And what he ended up doing after losing sleep on it for days was he just put the animal to sleep. He sedated it. And it came to a couple days later and it was healed. It's fine. Giving yourself a break when you're under duress and distress is the proper thing to do. However, submerging yourself into gaming and microcosms of reality that don't help you, that don't actually incentivize the skills to help you succeed in the broader game of life, something you do at your peril, I feel. Man, this episode of this is going to be pretty interesting to see if people actually receive it, find it interesting. I don't know if there's any audience for this kind of shit. I just have no idea. But I find this stuff fascinating. I don't think there's anywhere near enough sympathy and attempt at understanding in the world of gaming and technology. I see someone like Asmon struggling out there, and I just want to give the guy a hug. Even though I'm sure in many ways he's more mature than I am, even. He certainly has to deal with a lot more success, and he has to deal with a lot more interactions than I have to. But at the same time, I can't help but feel that I've been there. And in my own way, I've come through those things. But yeah, let us all give ourselves the breaks we need without letting the breaks become our reality.
And so that's kind of another factor too. The same, I hate most about myself. Yeah, I get really upset about stuff, and like I used to, like I've stabbed myself, I've done all kinds of stuff like that.
Yikes.
And it's not like out of like some kind of depression, I just get really, really mad. Like that's all there, I just get really, really mad. And That's why I try to stay away from situations that make me feel that way, right? It's like, because I don't want to.
You gotta figure out your anger, Asmon. Another thing that sucks about being a young man in this current society we grow up in is we're all treated like outlets of aggression are discouraged in young men. And men need to let out aggression. God help you if you're not someone who likes sports or is physically inclined. You think Asmongold is much of an athlete? Dude probably doesn't know how to handle aggression, how to handle his aggression. I can relate to that too, to some extent. But you can't suppress it. You got to find a way to harness it. You really do.
Like the head slam moment? Yeah, I mean, I used to do that to myself all the time before I streamed. It's not like this was some kind of like a new thing. Like I used to have like a keyboard that was wireless, and I would take the keyboard and I would hold one side of it, like horizontally, and I would beat it against my head until all the keys came out, and then to calm down, I would get underneath my desk and collect all the keys and put them back in the keyboard. And it's funny, right? It's funny, but at the same time, like this is not the behavior of a sound mind, right?
I'm trying to put myself in the mind frame of being so upset that I would bang a keyboard on my head until all the keys came out. Calming myself down by picking up the keys. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm not giving medical advice. I can't. I really sympathize with the guy. We need to learn how to handle our aggression and anger. One of the most toxic things I've learned about myself is how my anger can turn to resentment and how that affects my interactions. It's pretty bad. Get pretty bad if you don't handle yourself and your bad feelings in a way that's direct.
Right. Ghost my comment ruins your day. Comments that I agree with. Those are the kind of comments that ruin my day. Things that I read and I'm like, yeah, that's true. I'm gonna make 2 of these just so I can have another one of the cleavers. Yeah, I think that's really what it is. Many people, they're not in chat, care about you. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate it, guys. I do. Of course I do. Was Castle Anathria, especially Sludgefest, something you regret doing and kind of made you rethink your streaming career? No, I mean, wiping on a Warcraft boss is not something that made me rethink my streaming career. I mean, it was just annoying and I got mad, right?
What a dumb question.
Not, I don't know, I think people, like, they'll take things to, like, a really high degree about, like, what it is. I mean, like, yeah, I was really mad that day. Sure. Like, it was obvious that I was really mad. There's no, like, secret about it or whatever. And why was I? I was mad because people weren't doing what I wanted them to do. I think that just, like, in general, I don't like leading raids on stream because I feel like if I discipline somebody or if I say something critical of someone, the chat, I think, sometimes views that as an opportunity for them to, like, defend that person, and they view it as, like, me being the bad guy or whatever. And I don't really like how that happens. And, like, I don't like that because it's just, to me, I find it very weird.
I wonder if the chat is correct to call him out for being a bad guy in the way that he calls out others, or if the chat is just trying to create some narrative while he's focused elsewhere. I could see either thing being possible. Maybe both. Maybe both.
Warrior shit too. Yeah. Which is like, because I think most people that are in raids, they know that it's obviously like a different thing whenever your raid leader calls you out versus like random people. And like, yeah, obviously, you know, Shadowlands in general, like there have been some pretty bad streams in terms of like just negativity and toxicity with Shadowlands. Even I think the release stream was really bad, and that was a huge disappointment to me, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
To pass by, yeah, something needs to be more aggressive moderation.
Close the door.
Well, the thing is, like, I just don't want to have to deal with it, right? I mean, there's like some things, like for example, like I'll give you an example of this, right? If you talk about how you think that it's okay for women to stream and not wear a lot of clothes, you're just asking for people to get mad. Like, that's it.
If you talk about how it's okay for women to stream and not wear a lot of clothes, asking people to get mad. Right. Well, you're making yourself an easy target. Because you're not offering a very robust argument. And I guess when you have 50,000 people responding to you, there's a bit of an imbalance there, perhaps.
Like, they shouldn't get mad. It's stupid to get mad, but they will. And it doesn't really matter what you think they should do or anything. It's just that it is what it is.
This game looks so boring.
And
what the hell is this?
I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is that I don't really want to go out of my way to
soporific.
To intentionally create negativity and go against the grain for something that I don't really like. I don't really want to deal with.
He wants to pick his battles. Suppresses things that he thinks are true because he's not willing to pay the price of hearing the feedback. Yeah, that's a platform concern, man. I don't know what you do with that. I can't relate to that. I don't have to deal with the reality of having everything I say being responded to by thousands and thousands of people. God help me. I don't even know how I'd contend with that. It must be difficult.
I think that's one way to say it. For streaming your own group with group people in OTK? I like streaming with other people. What was I saying before about the, I'm trying to remember what I was even trying to get into. All those molding moments. Yeah, so I get really mad, or I'll call somebody out for doing something stupid. And then I think a lot of people take that as some sort of, kind of like a invitation to do the same thing to me. And I can see why people would think that, but I think that it's a very different situation whenever you're a raid leader versus just, you know, a random in chat.
He's comparing people coming to the defense of people he criticizes when he's raid leading on stream to people bandwagoning in on stuff that gets a reaction out of him. And maybe that's the just comparison to make, right? Maybe it's all just to get a rise out of him. If you put yourself out there to be an entertainer and you're not being sufficiently entertaining, people will find ways to pull it out of you, perhaps. At least if you have the audience. I don't know.
But the thing is, like, I can explain this, and I think that a lot of people can see where I'm coming from. Some people won't, but At the end of the day, people are still going to do what they're going to do, and they're still going to think what they're going to think, and they're still going to act the way they're going to act.
Another shutdown from Asmongold. It is what it is. People are going to do what they're going to do. People are going to act the way they're going to act. It's like, I don't want to discuss it anymore. I'm done.
So I don't really want to have to go against the tide and constantly try to argue and fight with people about things that you know, people are just not going to understand, and it's not really something it's just not a good idea. There's no reason to do it. Generally, like, I get I get really mad about that kind of stuff, right? Whenever people are doing things wrong or they're not listening or whatever.
I've seen him go through this same room at least 3 times. What is going on here?
And I think it just creates a pretty negative environment in general on the stream. And at a certain point, I think some of that's my fault, and some of that's just kind of the way the website is and the way people are on the website. But ultimately, it's my stream, and you know, it's my responsibility to make sure it's entertaining for people and they're enjoying it. And if they're not, then, you know, then that's my fault and it's my problem. So that's kind of how I see it. Do you have imposter syndrome? What is I don't even know what imposter syndrome is.
That's funny.
So I can't really say if I feel that way or not. You feel like you don't deserve to be in your position. Oh, I'm feeling that you're just faking something. No, not really. I mean, I've always tried to be, like, very honest with myself about things that I'm good at and not good at. And, like, there are some things I think that I'm really good at, and some things I think I'm really not good at.
What does Asmon think of his own success, though?
That's probably, it's an advantage and a disadvantage, because I think that to some degree, by having such a strong feeling in one way or another, it is kind of reductive towards changing some things about yourself and doing things differently, because you're just so strongly opinionated that you are X and not Y. But it's usually how I've looked at things. Yes, you did a good job. I feel like you didn't deserve it. I'm scared to be ousted as a fraud.
Know what he means.
I think that one
Listen to that one more time.
Advantage, because I think that to something. No, not really. I mean, I've always tried to be, like, very honest with myself about things that I'm good at and not good at. And, like, there are some things I think that I'm really good at, and some things I think I'm really not good at. And I think, if anything, that's probably, it's an advantage and a disadvantage, because I think that to some degree, by having such a strong feeling in one way or another, it is kind of reductive towards changing some things about yourself and doing things differently, because you're...
It is reductive towards changing some things about yourself and doing things differently. Reductive means presenting something in an overly simplified way. Yeah. Let me hear that one more time.
In one way or another, it is kind of reductive towards changing some things about yourself and doing things differently, because you're just so strongly opinionated that you are X and not Y. But
so oversimplifying yourself.
It's usually how I've looked at things. Yes, you did a good job. I feel like you didn't deserve it. I'm scared to be ousted as a fraud. I think that one thing...
Oversimplifying things, something that many games do as well.
Thing is that I'm very... it makes me feel bad that I'm, like, not very good at video games, and I have, like, problems with playing them, right? Like, I'll get, like, anxiety and get stressed out a lot, because it makes me feel stupid for being, like, a streamer and having these problems, because it's like, I mean, let's be honest, being a streamer is, like, the easiest job in the world in a lot of ways.
I don't agree with that at all. That's reductive, Asmongold. Being in front of people and presenting yourself and your ideas and you have to say for hours and hours every single day is fucking hard. I think it's fucking hard, especially if you're an introvert like him. I think saying it's the easiest job in the world is reductive. It's like streaming is not just playing video games all day. That's not what streaming is.
You can set your own hours. You can do whatever you want. And so, like, if you're failing and, you know, having trouble and getting stressed out about playing video games, it's going to just make you feel like you're like a moron.
It sounds like Asmongold might not understand his success. I wonder if that's the case. I don't know if it's true, but he's undervaluing just how hard it is to stream, while simultaneously being one of the most successful streamers. He's reducing it to just playing video games for hours and hours and hours, which is something he feels he's called to do because I'm guessing because he prefers a reductive version of reality, a video game, a microcosm, as opposed to the real thing. It's okay to use games to learn about reality and develop skills. The thing we need to guard against is what skills and abilities the games we play are actually helping us improve.
Like, and I think almost anybody would probably feel that way. I'm gonna make 2 more. Oh, not this one. Make 2 more of these, yeah. And so I think that's definitely like one thing, sure. Tools, wait, what? Oh, is it weapons? It's weapons. Make 2 of these. So, you're just looking at it wrong. Like, for example, like, I'm really stubborn and I have like a super bad mindset at like solving problems sometimes whenever I get mad or frustrated. And I just completely shut down mentally and I just can't like get over that. And I've tried to do it a number of times and there it was. I found it.
Can't handle his
I've
negative
tried to get
feelings.
over it a number of times, but I never really have been able to. Isn't exactly centered around being pro. Well, the problem is that, like, is the difference between, like, being pro and just being, like, a complete fucking idiot, right? Like, I have, like, I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but I will just, like, immediately, like, basically start short-circuiting, like, if I get frustrated about something. Like, I just...
Handling his anger.
It's very easy for me to get frustrated, and whenever I do get frustrated, I just completely shut down and get overwhelmed, and like it's just I can't deal with it at all.
I relate to that.
And
I relate to that. I have trouble dealing with my anger sometimes too. What'll happen to me when I have trouble handling my anger is what'll happen is typically I will feel that something is happening that is unjust. And I'll test my understanding of the situation in some way. And if it's confirmed, I get very angry and I'm very resistant to feedback, and my blinders go up. Get very tunnel visioned on what I think is the source of my anger. What I think is causing me problems. What is the threat? But I've learned techniques to figure out where anger is maladaptive for me. A lot of times when I get angry, it's because I've failed to set a healthy boundary. Think about like a microcosmic example. Again, microcosm. Let's say you strike up an agreement with your roommate to handle the dishes. Let's say you do every other day. So 1 week, you have 3 days, your roommate has 4 days, and the next week it swaps back and forth. And let's say you get into a situation where your roommate doesn't really do a good job on the dishes on their days, like let's say on the weekends, and they don't handle their shit, but you want a clean kitchen. So you jump in and you help out. Eventually, your roommate will start adapting to the fact that you're helping and maybe reduce the amount that they do. Um, and if you know what I'm talking about, then you know that that can make people fucking pissed and resentful as fuck. However, the person who is not doing the dishes might not be doing so in a way that is consciously malicious. They might just be failing to handle something in their own life and it's overflowing in some way. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they've agreed to something that isn't really good for them because they think it's equitable and because they think that it should be okay, even though it's not really okay. And they haven't done a good enough job understanding what they actually can contribute to the household. Maybe a different arrangement would be better. But anyway, if you're being taken advantage of, it's your responsibility to set a healthy boundary. And that's something I've only learned how to do that in recent years. So taking a break is one way of setting a boundary. And boy, I didn't know this was going to turn into a defensive Asmongold, but I find this super instructive. I hope others do too. I will say though that watching this game is getting boring as fuck.
It happens obviously like on stream. It happens off stream too. Obviously on stream is worse because I can't. Usually whenever that happens, I just go lay down, and I can't just go do that on stream. So I just have to fucking deal with it. Games are unplayable. Yeah, like my brain just shuts down, and I just get like super mad, and I can't think clearly, and I just like go into like a death spiral.
Classic
basically.
Anger stuff.
And
your body gets into fight or
like
flight
you think
mode.
About how stupid that is.
It's not good for thinking or performance. It's good for getting the fuck out,
like
or fighting off
a
threat.
Video game. And I know people are gonna be like, well, it's not stupid or whatever. To me, it is. And I feel that way for sure. So
in this way, Asmon's not accepted this part of himself, probably. His image of himself is someone who can deal with his anger. But what he's saying is that he is not actually someone who can deal with his anger or has trouble with it. And because his understanding of himself is that he's someone who can deal with anger, to him, the fact that he can't seems like a stupid failure. And that's sad. But I get that because I've had that feeling with many things when I was in my 20s. And, even now, where there are things I feel like I'm X, and because I'm X, I shouldn't struggle with Y. And if I struggle with Y, that must mean I'm not X, and that to me is a fucking problem. Like, yeah.
It's very stupid in general. Yeah, it is. And like it's embarrassing whenever I have these problems, and then other streamers can just seamlessly do what they want to do without having, some weird fucking mental breakdown because they can't figure out an item menu. And so it's just embarrassing to me, and it makes me feel stupid. A lot of other streamers can deal with competitive gameplay.
It's interesting you say he doesn't experience imposter syndrome. He's comparing himself to other streamers who he feels don't have the same problems he does. All the same struggles. I think most people struggle with aggression and anger in one way or another. And I think we all need to give due credit to the fact that people who, as what we're doing here, is put themselves up there in lights, are performing. And people understand the parts of themselves that are not desirable to display, and they find ways not to display those things, even if they exist and if they're real, if they have to be dealt with off stream. You're not alone, Asmon. You're really not, brother.
And you can't. Yeah, exactly. Like anytime like I start losing or things go wrong, I just completely shut down. And so of course that makes me feel like I'm inadequate and not good enough. How could it not? I think anybody would feel that way if they were in my position.
Yeah.
Were you the reason PvP vendors were removed? No, if anything, it was the opposite. Performance anxiety, I get writer's block during test. Yeah, like I'll shut down pretty easily. And it's not just on that. I think it's just because like video games accentuate it. And it's not necessarily because that's the only time that I feel that way. Anxiety is drastic. He's a very sensitive person. Compare your attitude, your ideas. There's your reality. Well, the thing is, like, the problem with me is, like, I'm not really a very sensitive person in a lot of ways. But, like, this might sound kind of bad, but, like, I feel like I can't really go as hard on somebody if they make me mad as I would want to, right? Like, if somebody makes me mad, I want to say, like, the worst possible thing that I possibly can to them. But if I said the things that I would want to say to somebody that pissed me off, I would literally get permabanned. So I can't, I hate feeling that way. And I think that's what bothers me more so than the things that are being said, is that I kind of just have to take it, I guess.
I guess that's the trouble of putting yourself out there publicly, is you cannot deal in public with things the way you would deal with them privately. But again, it all rolls up to the same kind of idea that Zach, aka Asmongold, doesn't know how to deal with his anger. I'm sure there's a way of dealing with that on stream without just swallowing it.
Cancel culture feels bad, man. Well, it's not just that. I mean, it's not even like, it's not like the website's fault. Like, it's probably a good idea that I can't do that, right? It's not like, oh, well, this is how I should be able to say this stuff, right? I mean, I don't know. I used to say some really, really bad stuff to people, right? But the way I look at it is that I very rarely like initiate conflicts with other people, and it's usually me responding to somebody who's created a conflict with me. And the way that I look at it is that if somebody tries to start shit with me, I'll finish it. And I don't think that that's really a bad way to look at things either. Yeah, it's the example of, yeah, like, I don't punch down or punch up, I punch back. Yeah, like, I hardly ever, like, I'm trying to think if there are like some cases of this, but like I can't really think of a case where I would just like randomly antagonize somebody. And
maybe he should. One of the things I'm taking away from this is that perhaps Asmon should antagonize some of the people in his life who deserve antagonization, who perhaps with whom he has unhealthy boundaries set. And maybe that's part of his viewer base. I don't know. But being purely reactive, not dealing with your anger, taking a break from being overexposed as an introvert. I mean, this all points to all the same stuff that I feel like I grew up through, which is, and I'm not an expert, just a layman who's gone through some stuff. To me, it all points to just a person figuring out their way. And when I look at it, it makes me think of all the, my wife's kid brother was born in the early 2000s. And his whole life has social media around him. And there's pictures of him and things written about him from the time he was too young to comprehend it that's out there. I'm one of the last part of a generation that was the last one born when we could grow up without social media, grow up without video cameras being everywhere, grow up without fear of having everything you say be recorded and rebroadcasted. And I got to go through a lot of stuff off screen. And even though Asmongold is like one of those out there examples of someone who streams for hours and hours and hours, there's some I think truth we can all relate to the idea that we're all exposed in a way we never have been before. All of us. Whether it be through Twitter or Facebook, or if you choose to be on YouTube or Twitch or whatever it may be. We all have this ability to connect and share with each other so much that now these parts of us are just dangling out there on the internet. And we don't have the luxury of growing up, fucking up, and then being someone better without someone being able to dig it up later. I guess I have a fundamentally sympathetic attitude towards people who are working through things. And these don't seem to be the reflections of someone who's living in complete denial, which is good. Because I worry about the picture that Asmon paints in his more considered content sometimes. But he's still a young man. And he's probably got a few more years where he can live as unhealthily as he does. Slugging back Mountain Dew. I mean, I'm one to talk. But I have a lot of faith that we're all humans dealing with technology in situations that we've never been faced with before. The demand on us cognitively has never been as high as it has been, and is only getting higher. It's accelerating that demand over time. You know, I found this YouTube channel I've been fascinated with. About a guy talking about his struggles and talking about how he can't find a job and how he can't figure out anything to do with his life. And he says he has a low IQ, can't do basic things, can't get basic jobs, can't get hired to be a janitor. Our world is leaving a segment of our population behind. And those are not choices that that person made to be the way they are. Just like I'm not someone who made the choice I made to be born with whatever intelligence I possess. Although there is some nurture component to it, but it definitely ain't all nurture. This is hard. And those of us who are putting ourselves into the forefront of that spotlight have it hardest, perhaps. At least for those of us who have our basic needs taken care of in the first world. I'm not trying to say that being online is harder than starving or harder than dealing with systematic racism and all the horrible evils of our world that you can find if you look for it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's this idea that I grew up with that once you're out there in the world, it's because you have it figured out. And when I got to be at that age where I was supposed to have it figured out and I was nowhere, I felt like I was the loneliest person in the fucking world. And what I didn't realize at the time is that everyone else was just as much of a fuck up as I was, and figuring out just as much. They just tried different things. And Asmon's not alone either.
You know, without this person like doing something that's either like really, really bad or doing something directly to me. So I think that's kind of a bit of a difference. Personally.
Respect. This is more exciting.
pulled in different directions by people. Yeah, people always want me to do different stuff and want me to be a different person than what I am. And I think that one thing that, like, every time that I take a break or have to take time to myself, I think that one thing that's important is that you kind of learn who you are, and you learn kind of what your limits are, and you understand yourself better. And I think that's definitely happened recently. I think almost all the times where I've had to take breaks, I think fundamentally one core reason is because I do something that's not that I would ideally do but not really do.
He would do something that he believes himself to be capable of, but perhaps not ready for. And the idea is based on his image of himself, like someone who has his anger under control.
I don't know if that really makes sense, but what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that I will do things that will seem like idealistically what the best decision would be, but they're not necessarily what's in my best interest as a person.
Right. Because you are not an ideal version of yourself.
Break doesn't include the alt channel. It's not like it's kind of a break. I mean, as I said, I just kind of wanted to go on and talk about a few things.
Oh, God. Okay. I love this video. This is a true testament from someone who is out there dealing with the problems that modern technology have posed to our fucking civilization. And it's a great portrayal of struggles that a lot of people go through when they're young adults. I've been through it in many ways. I'm still in it. My heart really goes out to Asmongold. Whether or not you love his content, I think we can all find something to relate to about what he's saying. And one of the main things I'm hearing is that Asmon is tyrannized by this vision of who he thinks he should be in a lot of ways. And one of the most difficult things I've ever come to do was to accept myself where I am. You know, I used to have this idea of myself that I would be this brilliant computer programmer, this guy who just sits in the basement all day and hacks stuff, builds things. Because that, to my, young person's mind, was the perfect application of the things I knew about myself and the things people told me about myself. You're brilliant. You love computers. You can do anything you set your mind to. And all these admittedly reductive portrayals of programming in popular media in the 90s and early 2000s. See hackers, see swordfish, holy shit, and many more besides. That suited my image, my self-image, my ego. But I had to get past my ego to figure out that I actually fucking hate sitting in building stuff with code all day. Kills me inside. What I love is sorting through meaning, talking to people. Games and virtual worlds, I think, are, to me, a combination of two things that really creates something that's bigger than some of its parts. You know, I never much got obsessed with gaming until I laid my hands on Mario 64 the first time. Somehow the combination of being in a 3D world was huge to me. With nothing else I saw before that was when it comes to gaming. And then for me, combining that with the ability to connect to people, and it's been my passion for over 20 years. And I've went through periods in my life not too long ago where I thought that that passion was something that I had to overcome to be successful. But my power has come from accepting that those things are important to me and they need to be part of my life in some way. And it also came from accepting that the way that those things would be part of my life is not the way that they work for everyone else. One of the big things I tried last year was being a streamer, just playing video games on stream. And I eventually came to realize that that is not for me. What I'm doing right now is a compromise I made with myself to say, I want to stream things. I want to examine these things that interest me seriously and chat about them with people. But I can't do it every day. So let's do it once a week. Hence, Basement Side Weekly. I want to thank Asmongold for generating this lovely content and for doing the thing that he does. I think this is going to be it for this week. We started a bit late in the day, and this has been bigger on the inside than it looked on the outside, in a good way. So yeah, I'm Deeg. This is Basement Side. What I hope is thoughtful examination of things that affect gamers. And I'm doing this every single Monday night. Trying to start around 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll see if I actually make it on time. Find me on twitch.tv/DeegTV. YouTube, I'm on there as DeegBS. And yeah, just hit me up. These are things that are important, and they should go examined. And we shouldn't leave the horrifying aggregator that is social media to decide these things for us. We should think about them seriously and examine them thoughtfully. And that's the basic assumption that I'm making when I sit down to do this. Thanks, y'all. I'll see you next week.